amount of work and have influenced other artists. There's probably nobody you can think of who has done that more than Amiri Baraka. He was an essayist, playwright, poet, music critic, a musician, a painter. What else? And his work, it's probably 50, 60 books by now. He's prolific and productive, but also a productive life as a cultural worker and activist. He organized theater companies and poetry groups and theaters and directed plays and organizations and been on picket lines and in demonstrations and done all kinds of things in which his work is both influenced by and also influenced. So we were trying to figure out how to start this conversation off because we wanted it to be a conversation. So we figured since he's a poet, he'd do a poem. And then we will have a conversation with him.
You know, as a poet, in 1967, I wrote a poem called Black People, and the dude sentenced me to 3 years in prison. Said that the poem was a prescription for criminal anarchy, you know, and I wanted to know, because black people had burnt the town down. And I wanted to know, Judge, do you mean that they came in my house and read the poem, burnt the stuff out? That's what he's saying? 3 years, no parole. And then he read that poem in court, and he wanted to leave out all the dirty words I was supplying him sitting in the audience. So then when this recent thing came about the poet laureate, they said I had to resign, and I refused all of that. Actually, I said, this is light. Before they wanted to put me in jail, now you just want to take my money. It shows you progress in the civil rights movement. So, this poem here is a poem that, I guess, this is a long poem, but this is a poem that I wrote after they had jumped on me for the other poem, Somebody Love America. This is my reaction to that, you know, which was a little bit later. This is called Fashion This, from the irony of the world. That's John Coltrane, Lonnie's Lament. Fashion This, from the irony of the world. That I, the undaunted laureate of the place, daunted in some unasyeted pretense of what they see, they be, as if such where they was yet to be, and then to say they is and is not, like Revelations, wow, humans. The skin, the lodging inside dumbness, a slight breeze frees they speech, to speak as if acquainted with small things in the world, eating, belching, farting, murder, robbery, and so on. As if in them too they is, but nothing further but the wee dots on the deletion resembling the minds of them yet to come. Imagine you were me, or imagine you were thee and we knew all the things both do and is and will ourselves to be. Imagine you were in this place and they wanted to run everywhere, pointless, endless, understanding not even why they smell or their hair fall out, or what to do about gout. That they're yet stupid to colds and cancer and death, they think holy and ultimate, when death is simply a report card of the ignorant. Nothing dies but that which never lived, and it might return in a white suit and in charge of ugly small mistakes. Somebody at Harvard could win $1 billion in a post if they could find out, but they never will because it's the reason they committed suicide. Suppose you had to live with ignorant white people and Negroes in cages with important chains around their mouth. Suppose you had heard of Trent Lott. Suppose you woke up 1 a.m. and there was a vampire on the tube being interviewed by a Nigolino boob, a handsome rat for whom the idea of brain was only an idea, which he did not think, if he could, was a bad one. And the boob was a killer. He had to graduate from killer school, so he worshipped the vampire's teeth. The two juicy fangs hanging from each side of his lip, the Negro thought was his, and dreamed of having teeth like that so he could be a rat. He was tired of being a mere heel. And the vampire was planning to bite the whole world, to suck the blood out of everything, to suck the blood out of the world and make its future a vampire that could whirl through space and suck the blood out of the stars, and suck the blood out of the planets, and suck the blood out of the moon, and suck the blood out of the sun, and then, armed and blubbery fat with everything's blood still hot and musical like emptiness, he could lift into the outer way garnosphere and search for God, if there was such, and suck the blood out of him, her, it, them, whatever, till there was no blood anywhere, not even you, blood. In fact, you'd be one of the first to go. It was a special issue of Jungle Comics, where the vampire, the thin-nosed kind from the outback, who can suck with his teeth and stir with his nose, whose eyes are missing, and what you see is the bottom of a coal mine filled with 2,000 fathoms of lynch, execution, missing, raped, cheated, framed, slandered, stolen, frowned, frozen ex-corpuscles, hid under the glistening, listening underwater ass-craft of the satanic moron cult, whose breath is toxic and pokes holes in the sky so dead things can shit on our food. He is called Fangul, the asshole, and dances to dry lips set on fire by missing junkies he has eaten. He is the devil's newspaper and wears his ass backwards so the colon can wear a uniform. Revelations can be burned, especially chapter 18, verse 12, where it says, beware of ugly motherfuckers. Well, not really ugly motherfuckers, but uglier, much more uglier than that. So spake Nat, amen. I speak with the rage of angels, then to be with marks. I speak with the clarity inferno of the necessary, like my man John on Patmos watching Sky Vision and thinking it was all commercials. I speak like Ali Baba, the Arabian Pope, who when he spoke the magic words, opened the sucker up, and the mountains swang. In vision one day, there would be a John named Train who would blow the same shit. I blow with a deep fear of John on the island, looking at the actual devil. I am like him in that I try to count the memory jammers' heads and horns and find out what will kill him. I speak like him who spoke to Philadelphia and hung out with Jesus before they murdered him. I speak like him who dug that Peter was a coward and gave the Lord up, and that Paul was an anti-Semite who never came out of the closet. I speak as one who knew Judas would drop a dime on the movement and confirmed the chump had hung his lousy self just before I got busted. I speak as one betrayed by the lies of those who say they are religious but are greed-ridden worshippers of Satan, who kill anyone who opposes them and calls it a church of defense against evil. Like John, I would speak, like John who baptized, like John the knower, John the blower, John the brown, John the revelator. I speak like James the brother, James the other, Jim the hip, like Dick the rude, like Bird the high, like Monk the deep. I speak from the island of my soul, and cast a terrified look into the sky filled with monsters, with witches and devils, with great whores and beasts, of things with heads and horns and blood dripping out of their eyes. Dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee. It is hell. Imagine you were here in this place, staring into the soul of something filthy, trying to keep it from murdering you, to keep your eyes from registering, your ears from hearing, your mouth from reporting, and you could feel it breathing on your neck and saw sometimes the shadow of its horny hands reaching out of the blind dark. You could see the shadow of its gun, its lie, its teeth sweating. Imagine you could actually understand its obscene ideas. And they made you into the mind of Fred Douglass and stare out at the ocean just as John at the edge of Africa staring at the overhead commercials on the death of the beast. And so, the blessing that is in my name and in my words I give to myself and you who are truthful as the actual life of the world. And it is this blessing which will save us, will make us strong as we go on with our work of scientifically determining how to kill the beast. Each night I fill my notebooks with formula and instructions to myself and others on what to do, or what to study, or where to go, who to talk to, and when. I make lists of words and names and events and processes, necessary stages of what we have come to realize is protracted, and what we do, we will do, and what we succeed at is worth the pain. What we fail at is worth the understanding if we can understand what the next step is. We are studying with all our minds and hearts and souls' determination to understand how to slay the serpent. This task Nat handed down to whoever did understand that was what he did hanging on that tree, slain by the serpent's host. So we have learned that we cannot die except by our own submission to it, and decided we will not die except when we understand what place we go to, and so begin to set that where in order and begin to understand where the beast will be hiding there. We are the rider of the black horse. We are the rider of the black horse. Black horse, black rider, who conquers with a scale, with justice and measure, in the mighty pentatonic mode of the finite musical infinity, a new joint. And when I returned from this forwarding of my feeling and knowing, the beast sat still and teeth wiggled with lies. And at once I remembered where before I'd seen him, before his tenure as the counterfeit ghost of the Caucasian crib. Yes, it was the same one. Remember the little devil that Gerald 2X arrested and placed in the pages of Mohammed Speaks? And we saw him where Malcolm had locked him up with the little horns out of his head and the little evil eyes and the twin fang straws for sucking oil and blood. It got clear to me as he rose to leave, and the Negro boob slobbered happiness at being recognized as the newest commode in the Caucasian abode. The vampire turned, and where before the cunning little tail that used to dangle at his hiney struck me in its absence. Oh, I thought. And at that moment, I saw the thing dart like a copperhead's fart out of the Negro's curled lips, ring with the white chalk Caucasian circle of merit, which identifies wooden Negroes, promoted to the honorary genus of Homo locus subsidiary, literally near man, who no longer kneel when they are made well-paid heels, but now can assume the funky bedbug crouch of the hideously self-hating. At the same time, they are given a great facsimile carte blanche weapon of ugliness to use against inwards and any who would violate the sanctity of northern appetite. And so I came to understand that the beast's deadly arrow, shot from out of the first horseman's white bow, from the white horse, the weapon which Revelations prophesied to John, was the weapon of his transitory rule, was now the tongue of the boob, whom I erred calling him that, or rat, or heel, or dog, or traitor. That tail, become a tongue, was the sign that from the vampire's tail was bestowed on the wooden Negro a badge that allowed him to enter Klan meetings and skinhead lynchings and Texas executions and Palestinian ethnic cleansings and report with the slobber of his terrificacious white ringed serpent's beak, symbol, font, and punctuation on the tabula rasa of the media sheet, the empty echo of his eviscerated self. And in the soul's place, that beast's tail, and in the soul's place, that beast's tail was hung. That beast's tail was sung. And I stood remembering Patmos and the images that sailed across the air. We knew and I was there, and wondered what next the world of this life held for those who would love goodness. Dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee. Thank you.